All right, many times on this channel, I get a great comment. Now, I did a video recently talking about, making connections in the business and that it's up to you to make things happen. There is no magic manager or record company or something that's going to whisk you away and make you a rock star. And we got a comment here. It's from John, right? John Tony. And it says, man, this is great info. Thank you. Would you talk more about working the phones? I get that you're trying to make connections, but this working the phones idea is kind of like a black box to me. I'm not really sure what the guts of the black box are. Who do you call? What do you say to them? How do you find the phone numbers? How do you not just get shut out by their gatekeepers? It would seem like if you're always calling up people to ask for something that they would eventually get tired of these phone calls and stop taking them. So, how do you make people want to take your call? Do you always ask for something during each call? If you're simply calling up to shoot the then how do you not waste someone's time or making them think you're wasting their time? I've never been good at this making and keeping connections thing. It's hard for me to not feel like I'm wasting their time or boring them. How does one keep that from happening? Okay, there's a huge clue right there in this last paragraph. He says, I've never been good at this making and keeping connections thing. Okay, that is the first part of all of this. Making and keeping connections, right? You know what? It almost seems like certain personality types are really good at this, and some people are not. And this is a tough thing. Look, he's asking, that he feels like he's wasting their time. He feels like, he's always asking for something. Look, I'm going to address like at the top, working the phones. And these days, that's working the phones is an old school term, right? So many things these days are not just working the phones, right? So many things today is working Instagram, working Facebook, working YouTube, working all your social media, right? And here's the deal. And I found this, and this might be the biggest helpful tip that I can give anybody out there. By doing this channel, right? What do I do every day? I don't ask for clicks or likes, although if you do it, it helps this video, right? I'm not always trying to sell something, right? I have a Amazon link. I have a Sweetwater link. And I think people that watch this channel know I have it. And some people use it because they know it helps the channel, right? But I'm not constantly asking for something. What I'm doing each day is trying to provide value, right? I'm trying to give information, right? To help people, right? Whether it's my motivational videos on Mondays or whether it's my live where people get to ask questions and things like that, it's like giving something, right? Helping people, right? And that's a huge part of this, right? Now, I have seen guys that are masters at this, right? And they never once felt like they were wasting somebody's time by shooting, right? Here's the deal, man. It's the same thing when you introduce and you meet somebody, right? If you go in and you try to establish some kind of common ground with somebody, a lot of this could be tied into, being a pickup artist and skills that you can learn that way, the same way of learning something about somebody, taking notes about it. Hey, we bonded over fishing, right? But here's the deal, man. Any person in sales can tell you cold calling is almost last resort, right? Cold calling, do not look up these people's phone numbers. Do not just randomly call people. Make a connection first, right? It's a difficult thing, right? Here's the deal. By doing this channel, by being positive, by providing, content, right? People reach out, right? I've had famous people reach out and said they watched my channel, that they loved my channel, right? And, by doing that, that's an opening. And you go, hey, man, would you like to do an interview on the channel? I've had people reach out on Instagram or whatever and said, hey, I watch and all this. I've had companies reach out. Will you demo our product? Will you do a video on our product? And this is all because I get up each day and provide value. You've got to learn how you can provide value to somebody that can help you, right? And I think look, this is a black box. This is absolutely a black box. And for each person, it's going to be different, right? Maybe you work in a field that's adjacent to the music business or entertainment business. Maybe you come in contact with celebrities all the time. Look, I worked at a hotel in Hollywood, and I was waiting on Robert Plant and David Bowie and Carl Palmer and Greg Lake and Robin Zander. I would see these people almost on a daily basis, right? Some of them on a daily basis. Even Prince, walk by, or Steven Tyler, all of these rock legends. Not once did I say, hey, man, I'm in a band. Here's my demo tape. Now, maybe I could have done that, right? I could have done that. But look, it would have been better if I'd established a friendship with them, and that's the reality, right? Making connections with people, right? Now, some people put the wall up, and here's the deal, man. I've worked in the music business for 40 years, right? And I've known people that have played with major artists and have done all kinds of different stuff. The majority of them are not going to help you. This is probably the most difficult thing that you're going to have to realize, that the majority of people that can help you probably won't, probably to protect themselves. Some of the guys that I've seen that are particularly good at this, they will look, if they're on a tour bus rolling down the road, they will literally pick up their phone and just start calling people, right? Calling people in their list. And look, because they were able to work themselves up into a position of power, say, be in a position to where you're doing things, you're moving, you're shaking. All of a sudden, people are going to want to be around that, right? You can't just be some schlub, looking up phone numbers and calling people cold, right? You're going to have to, look, man, maybe you can intern for somebody, right? Maybe you can help somebody at that lower level and work your way in, prove your worth, right? If someone's, the guy that's asking me this question, my first question would be, where are you? Where are you? If you're in BFE, bum F, blank, nowhere town, this is going to be next to impossible. This is probably not going to happen. And you're not going to be able to wait till the tour bus rolls into town and try to slip somebody a tape. Yes, that kind of thing has happened in the past. And I guess if you were stuck in a small town, maybe that's the only way you could get this done. But it helps if you're somewhere where you're going to run into these people. Don't go up to one of these people. Number one rule, Do not gurm them. In Nashville, we have a term called gurm, where you go up to somebody, oh, you're awesome. I love your music. Your music is incredible. You're amazing. I love what you do, and all this stuff. That's called gurming. And we know when we're being gurmed, right? And most people that are stars or, higher ups in the business, they don't want to be treated like that. They don't want to hear that, right? You'd be better off if you happen to walk by him and go, oh my God, did you see that guy's jacket? And starting up a conversation that way, you know? Or complimenting them on some, hey man, yeah, awesome boots, man. How you doing, brother? Something like that, man. But not going up to them, oh, I'm your biggest fan. I love your music and all that. That's gurming, and nobody wants to hear that, right? So first of all, location, 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 right? Place yourself somewhere where you're going to be in contact with these people, right? And if you're starting at the lower level, I've seen videos where guys are like, well, yeah, you moved, this famous studio guy moved from some small town, and how did he break into the business? It just doesn't work like that. Let me tell you exactly how it happens, right? You took a chance. You left BFE. You went to Nashville. You started at the bottom, right? You started and you met people. You went out. You played gigs. You answered ads in the newspaper, right? It's like when I moved to Florida, right? I found Facebook groups of musicians that are looking for players, right? Every day, I see people looking for guitar players or looking for bass players or looking for drummers. And if you were going to try and get out and gig and make connections, this would be how you start, right? Because everybody knows somebody. You might get into a band that's struggling and trying to make it. But the reality is this. Maybe one guy in the band has an uncle that's in the music business. Maybe one guy in the band is connected, right? Or maybe you go into a studio and maybe you meet some people there. Get into situations where you're going to run into more people. You're going to meet more people. You can't expect to sit at home and have any numbers to call. And when you do meet these people, if a celebrity or somebody in a power position comes up to you and says, hey man, I really like you guys' music and all that. And you say, hey man, thank you so much. Hey, do you mind if I get your number? I'd love to pick your brain about something. You seem to know a lot about Marshall amps, or you seem to know a lot about tone. I'd love to give you a call. I've got this awesome Marshall amp at home. Maybe you'd like to check that out. Find common ground. Don't be afraid to ask for their number, right? And I would say, man, here's the deal. It's a fine line between calling somebody and harassing somebody, right? You know what? Think about what you say. Map it out in your head before you make the call. That is important, right? The reality is this, man. Don't call up somebody and not know what you're going to say. That's amateurs do that. I think even the guys that work the phones all the time, they're thinking, oh yeah, I like to go fishing. Let me call up my buddy, so-and-so who's a big country star and loves to go fishing. Hey man, how you doing? And here's the thing. When you call people, look, this might require an entire shift of your personality. If you're somebody who's thinking you're bothering people and I don't want to waste your time and this and that, don't waste their time by being positive. Don't be afraid to call them up and say, hey man, how you doing, man? Hey, it's great to get a hold of you. Hey man, remember we were talking about Marshall amps? I got this great amp. Or remember we were talking about fishing? man, I'd love to go out fishing with you one time and pick your brain about a few things. Or, hey, man, here's a great one. Here's a great one. I had a buddy of mine. Look, I was playing a gig one time. New guy came to town. I'm playing the type of gig that he plays, right? And I'm doing my gig, and this guy's a sax player, moves to town. What does he do? He comes in the bar, he sees my band, he goes, hey man, can I buy you a beer? And at the time I was drinking, I was like, yeah, man, you could buy me a beer, absolutely. So he comes over, buys me a beer, boom, gives me the beer. He says, hey man, I play sax. I just moved to town. You guys sound amazing, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, hey man, you got your sax? Yeah, I got my sax. I said, why don't you come up and play a solo? Come up and play on something. Right there, boom, right? He didn't ask for something. He didn't come up and go, "Do you mind if I sit in?" I probably would have said no if he'd have just did that, right? Because I don't know this guy, right? But because he was willing to come up, hey man, do something for me, right? Now this same guy would message me when I was in town or call me up and go, hey man, let's do lunch. Perfect idea. Hey, let me buy you lunch. Here's the deal, man. Offer something, right? Offer something. You're not wasting their time. You're actually doing something for them. Offer to take them out to lunch. Hey man, I'd love to take you out to lunch, buy you a beer and ask you a couple questions. Or hey, always offer something, right? And look, cold calling, anybody that knows sales knows that's like the hardest thing to do. People are generally not going to be receptive to that. So you're going to have to figure out how to make connections. You need to be somewhere where you can make those connections, right? A major metropolis with a music scene and all of that kind of stuff, and use those connections that you make. If you have to start from the bottom, man, it's still better than not starting at all, right? I hope this is answering some of the questions, man. This is not something that I mastered, but I have seen people that do master it. And they will have a Rolodex with everything from actors to musicians. Because here's the deal, man. And you've got to know the protocol, right? If you're a side man, if you go around to all the opening acts and you start bothering the artists and stuff, you could end up with your butt, kicked off the tour, right? Because these people don't like to be bothered. But you know what? Casually saying hello to the other band members, introducing yourself to the stage manager, all of these things, man, these are important. And you know what? If somebody's a roadie or somebody's a stage manager or something, don't look down on them. These are people that could help you as well, right? The person at a record company office that is working the phones, they could be of great service as well, right? No one is too big or too small to help you, but always offer value. Look, don't you think if you went down to a publishing company or a record company or a studio or management office or whatever, and you showed up with a box of donuts or a box of flowers for the receptionist or something like that, don't you think that would get their attention? It absolutely would. It absolutely would. And it always have a smile. Always have a positive attitude. Don't ever feel that you're wasting someone's time, because think about what value you can add to them before you make the call. Think about what you're going to say. And look, if they're not receptive to it, maybe they're going through something at the time. You can't always expect that, when you call somebody that it's going to be a win, that it's going to be a sale, that they're going to actually do something. The majority of the time they're not. But every time, if you call them again, offer something of value. Offer a laugh, offer something that's going to make them smile. If you think about, hey man, I was just thinking about you the other day, man. I ran into so and so, and man, they said what a great guy you were, and all this, man. Compliments will go much, much farther than gurming, right? There's a difference. There's a difference between that. Look, establish that you're the same as them. If you meet a rock star, right, just go, hey man, did you see that outfit that guy was wearing? That was incredible. You know what? That puts you on equal footing, not, oh, you're amazing, and I've been a fan of you since I was a little kid. That's not the right approach. This is a difficult subject to really explain, right? And sometimes the reality of it is you've got to change your personality. You've got to get over the thing of feeling like you're wasting people's time. You're not going to waste people's time, right? Because you're going to add value. You're going to call them up. And if all you do is offer a smile, well, that's better than calling them up and go, hey man, I was wondering if you could help me. Do not start the conversation. If you're lucky enough to get some numbers, if you're lucky enough to meet some people who might be able to help you, right? Do not start the conversation out with, hey, can you get me in there on a session? Hey, can you record my band? Hey, would you produce my demo? Don't start the conversation out like that, man, because that's just setting them up to go no and then click, right? If you set up the question, the conversation by, hey man, I know you like to do this, or you like to do that, or hey, I hear you're a big fan of sushi. Well, man, I've got the most incredible spot. I would love to take you out to lunch and and ask you a couple questions. I got it. It's on my tab, man. And then boom, take them out, right? And then once you've had a few bites of food and whatever, and say, hey man, I wanted to pick your brain about something. You seem to know what you're doing in this business, or you know how to produce. I'd love to know if I could hire you to produce my band, or if you know somebody that can help me do this, or somebody that can do that. But always, always start by offering something of value. Nobody likes a one-way MF. I have my buddy Pete, he used to call it one-way mother, you know what. And nobody wants somebody to call them up and constantly be asking for something. Man, you're right. They're not going to take your call. But this is not rocket science either, right? This is very valuable information. And man, I'm hoping I can help some people out there that may be wondering, like, well, how do you break into the business? Look, it's very easy. Go somewhere where you can break in. Start at the bottom. There's no gate. There's no magic gatekeeper that's gonna keep you. Oh, you're not gonna allow in. If you want to do sessions, then seek that out. Right? There's nobody gonna hold you back from doing that. But you do have to have the skills. Look, when you ask for something and you want, a publishing deal, whatever, make sure your songs are great. If you want to be a studio player, make sure you're that caliber of player way before you go do it, right? Don't get somebody to stick their neck out for you and then you can't bring the goods. That is the reality of all of this. If you have the talent, if you have the ability, if you can offer something of value, right? If you know how to talk to people and be positive and upbeat, well then, man, the sky's the limit. But if you're an amazing player and you're just sitting, waiting for something to happen, waiting because you played that gig down at Billy Bob's Bubble Bar, that, something's going to happen from it. Nothing's going to happen until you make it happen. That's the reality of the music business.